Brian Billick, my compadre from the NFL Network and NFL Media Group and Super Bowl champion coach, joining me here on the program. Well, how would you answer that question, Coach?
Wow, I think everybody did well. I really do. And it was one of the kind of drafts that you could address your needs, notwithstanding the quarterback, because that's the biggest roll of the dice. All those guys that got pushed back, it's because I don't know that anybody in all of our coverage really envisioned 7 offensive players going in the front 10. That pushed all those good defensive players back in that 10 through 20 range.
Right.
So it was always going to be about the quarterbacks. Were they going to pull quarterbacks in to push it back? It reminds me, and this may be a negative connotation, of the 2011 when Cam Newton went number 1, and then we pulled all these other guys in, Locker, Ponder, Gabbert, into that 8 through 12 area. Now,
that's not a compliment.
It's not, because it didn't turn out well. Now, that doesn't mean, but I've said before, we talked about all day yesterday. Quarterbacks, it's real simple. Are they a franchise guy or not? If they're a franchise guy, they're worth it. You go get them. Now, we'll see if they are or not.
Right.
But obviously, in the mind of these 3 teams, they believe they're franchise guys. Now, where I'm going to giggle between now and then is we're going to bring them around slowly. They're not ready to start. No. First round, giving up what we gave up, franchise guy, and we're going to break him in slowly.
Right.
You don't connect those sentences.
Well, so what was the most surprising aspect of last night? Would you say it was Trubisky or any of the others that you just heard?
I think Trubisky, from the standpoint, you can make a case, obviously. I think Deshaun Watson's in the best position. I think he could be Joe Flacco-like because he's going to the number 1 defense. Mahomes coming into Kansas City, you can make the case, he's going to learn from Alex Smith. Oh, by the way, that never really works. Alex Smith is a great guy, but he knows right now, the clock's ticking. I think with Trubisky, if I'm John Fox, I'm worried. I'm sure he signed off on this, but let me get this straight. I'm coming into year 3. I'm 3-13. You're now giving me a rookie quarterback on a team that's probably not very good. That scenario, and I know the mentality is, they as an organization probably had to decide, look, you're okay. Check with Jack Del Rio with that when he took Bortles with the idea, as late as he was in his tenure there, going, no, we understand this will be a building period. Oh, we didn't realize it would be that bad. I think I'm being selfish here as a coach. I think John Fox is the most vulnerable of all those guys.
You're sitting there thinking he's sitting there today going, okay, because they basically what they did is they gave up 2 3s, 1 this year, 1 next year, and a 4 this year for the right to go up 1 spot and get Trubisky just in case they were nervous.
On a
somebody
bad
else would do.
football team. What?
13,
how do you gain this
starts
out?
Too, 13. So I've heard these are the evaluations of Trubisky. I've heard that he is his upside is Alex Smith, Garoppolo. That's his upside. And as Mayock said that on the air last night, actually, that Garoppolo is a comp out for him, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing because Garoppolo is talented, but Garoppolo is a 2nd-round pick for a reason.
Right.
Is what he pointed out.
That's why I made the analogy of, if you go back, guys like Ponder, Gabbert, Joker should have been early 2nd-round picks. They should have been that we can't wait to get to them on day 2 type of picks. And what typically happens, then they get pushed in that 20 through 32. That 20 through 32 list of quarterbacks, outside of Aaron Rodgers, he's the poster child, that list will scare the hell out of you. Because you look at, they're there for a reason. They got pushed back out of the early one because they're not as good, or they got pulled up out of the 2nd round, and teams held off. We didn't have one of those, so we won't know, the evaluation of it. So are these guys, are these guys 2011, or is this? Are we looking at Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco going to the right team just late enough where they plug in and play pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, you just obviously one does never know. Right, that when you're talking about, when you mentioned that there was 7 players in the first 10 who were offensive players, that we have not seen that in some time. That the last time that happened, I've got that right over here. I guess I shouldn't have said it until I actually had the information right in front of me. But let me take a break and we'll come back. Because this really, to me, says something about the crapshoot that is the draft. And then I want to ask you why Andy Reid chose Mahomes over Deshaun Watson in your estimation? I've got Brian Billick, Super Bowl champion, head coach, and NFL Network colleague right here. We're back with more from Philadelphia in 60 seconds of the clock. The Kansas City Chiefs no longer have a first-round pick in next year's draft. Wow. They just traded it along with the 91st overall pick to move up 17 spots.
With the 10th pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Patrick Mahomes II, quarterback.
It is Patrick Mahomes II. So that happened last night because we were going to break. And Mayock's like, don't sleep on Mahomes because, he's talking to Reed and Dorsey throughout the weeks. And he knew that they also liked Mahomes also as much as they liked Watson. And then sure enough, it turned out to be Patrick Mahomes II, which gave this draft 7 offensive players in the first 10 picks. And Brian Billick still with us here in studio. The last time that happened, Coach, just to show you again how much of a crapshoot it is. So it was Trubisky, Fournette, Corey Davis. Mm-hmm. The Titans chose him out of Western Michigan.
Which was a surprise.
That surprised you too, huh?
A little bit, just that high.
Steve Smith thinks he's Terrell Owens incarnate, is what he said.
Wow, well, that'd be a good call. I'd go with Steve's. And it's like all of them. All these kids have a little bit of nicks that, well, okay. Whether it's the lack of speed from Mike Williams, everybody's got a little something. Ross has got, a little bit of the injury thing and kind of disappeared in the Alabama game. So everybody's got a little something. But just the fact that it went that high, although I think it ended up being a great pick for Tennessee. Yeah, and then Mike Williams became the first Clemson player. It wasn't Deshaun Watson. It was Mike Williams was the first Clemson player, a Los Angeles Charger. Christian McCaffrey, John Ross, and then Mahomes. So the last time that happened, 2005, and I mentioned how I heard Mitchell Trubisky, by the way, I heard the words poor man's Alex Smith was part of what I heard, okay? Just what I want to be.
Mitchell Trubisky, so the last 2005, and you tell me how this all turned out. These are the top 7 players in the top 10. Alex Smith, Ronnie Brown, Braylon Edwards, Cedric Benson, Carnell Williams, Troy Williamson, and Mike Williams.
Wow.
The Mike Williams of... As we all remember, USC.
Yeah,
that was when
Mooch. That's when Mooch started on that.
That's when Mooch in the draft room was looking at Millen and go, receiver again, really? But I don't know if he actually said that or not. But that's how difficult it is to try and because I think that these kids are all really good. I mean, isn't Fournette going to be a hell of a pro?
Oh, I said, I think top to bottom, I think people are going to be really pleased with this draft. I don't have any Pro Bowlers or whatever.
Right.
But like all of them, the thing that jumps out at me, and we're talking about Mahomes, and it is what it is. People have got to remember just how singular these evaluations are. It's not like it's a group think. It doesn't take all it takes is one, kind of like selling your house. All I need is one person to think it's valued the same way I am.
Well, they got to bring all cash, though, right?
That too. But you look at, say, at Mahomes, and Andy Reid knows quarterbacks. That'd be great. He loves Mahomes, reminds him of Brett Favre. I get that. Okay.
Yes.
But there's some pretty good teams that spend a lot of time. Teams that needs quarterback. Okay, Cleveland, San Francisco, Chicago, the Jets that said, no, we don't think this guy's good enough. Now, that's got to give you a little pause that, okay, I know better. Okay, maybe you do. And that's what you're getting paid the big bucks for, and that's how this works out. But that's going to be the most interesting because obviously Trubisky, as we said, this is going to be Chicago. For John, I worry. They're not a good team, and it's going to be a struggle, and maybe they can just show that he's getting good enough during the course of the year. Deshaun Watson stepping into a very good situation. He'll be like Flacco. He'll be a sub-400 throw guy. They won't ask a lot of him, play good defense, and he'll make some spectacular plays they haven't made for a while. Mahomes and Alex Smith, on a positive point, this is Favre and Aaron Rodgers, which went great for Green Bay, but wasn't real great for Brett Favre at the end of the day and the way that went down. Mm-hmm. And you're basically saying the clock is ticking. Oh, we love you, Alex. You're our guy. And we're going to sit there and, oh, yeah, we're going to be 20th in offense again. No problem. Don't worry about it. Because we just moved up and gave up away a lot to get this guy that's sitting here. But don't worry about it, Alex. You're our guy. We got no problem. Oh, you haven't thrown a touchdown to receiver in 14 years? Don't worry about it. We're okay. So that one's going to be the interesting one to watch how that develops.
And, oh, by the way, let's open up on Thursday night at New England.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Oh, by the way,
yeah,
let's do that. Brian Billick here on the Rich Eisen Show. So why do you think he did, Andy Reid, go Mahomes over Deshaun Watson?
They like the kid. They think they see something there. There was talk about them looking at some free agent. I think they recognize Alex Smith is what he is, and I don't know that we can do much more. Now you'll never hear them say that, and he's our guy and whatever. But I think they recognize this is as good as we're going to be with Alex Smith, and we need that next guy. And he knows what it is. I mean, when you take a quarterback in your non-first year, that's a tough timing. It usually doesn't go well. What you want to do is take the quarterback in your first year. And that marriage, when you take him in the second or third or later, the timing of that can be very difficult. Andy lived it, and he took Donovan McNabb, had a great run for 10, 11 years, okay? And then when it was time to move on, he was on the 50-50 part of the equation. When you take a quarterback, he was on the reverse side, didn't go very well, and it ended up getting him run out of Philadelphia. So he's trying to get ahead of a curve. Obviously, they believe in Andy. His job security is fine. But what's the timing of this? How does this, with an Alex Smith, and the defense is good, but then by the time this kid's really step in and be the guy, where are we as a team? Is that 2 years, 3 years down the line? It's an interesting transition. They obviously had the courage of the conviction to say, like I said, if you think they're a franchise quarterback, you take him. They think he's a franchise quarterback, you take him. Brian
Billick here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you think Cleveland's doing? And by that I mean that they've had Wentz. They could have had him. Nope. We'll trade out. We need more picks. We need to get better. We got Deshaun Watson right there. They could have had Myles Garrett and Deshaun Watson come out of the draft with still a first rounder next year, not somebody else's and theirs, still with 2 second rounders next year, which one would think would be when they finish in the middle of the pack, if that's the best case scenario. And if they do love Darnold or Rosen or the Washington State kid or whomever, that's enough firepower to put together to go up and get whoever the heck you want next year anyway. Essentially what I asked in the first section of our program, when do you hit the win now button?
Two things.
In Cleveland.
We joke about all the time, Rich. I've been doing this with you for a while. Two things you can't do in this league. You can't miss on a first-round pick at quarterback. Secondly, you can't pass on a first-round quarterback. Otherwise, you're going to be doing the Rich Eisen Show instead of coaching, okay? And I'm living proof of that. Here's my concern for Cleveland. Are you
saying Kyle Bowler is the reason why you're sitting with me here today? Is that what you're saying?
Here's my concern for Cleveland. And you've got to love, I love the players they've taken and the way they're moving it. And they got Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill running the front office, so they're going to moneyball this thing, which is great. You're right. At some point, you've got to have the quarterback, okay? I'm looking at a parallel of the Los Angeles Rams, St. Louis Rams, and Jeff Fisher. Okay, I'm gonna bypass that. I'll patchwork the quarterback thing. I'm gonna build the defense. I'm gonna stockpile. We're gonna pass on some people, and I'm gonna build this up, and then I'll plug the quarterback in. That didn't work real well, and that you're exactly right with Cleveland. Okay, when do you pull the trigger here, and actually put a guy in that can now lead? Are we going to continue to build? And we'll go from 1 win to 5 or 6 or 7. Okay, great. And then we're going to go find our quarterback. Or does Pitt and Hill think we're going to get a Dak Prescott in the 4th round? We're going to get a Russell.
Yeah. Maybe that's what
and that's
happens.
Cool. If you believe
there are 6
that,
rounds left in
we're
this
just
draft.
going to out-evaluate people. We're going to get a Hall of Famer Tom Brady in the 6th round because we're that smart. Okay, let's. That at least that tells me there's a plan there.
I mean, basically, they still have. I'm trying to figure it out. They had 11 coming in, and they gave 1 up to move back into the first round to take Njoku. So I believe I might be off here. They've got 8 left. I mean, so who could that be? Kaiser? Who
do they want to go?
Well,
let's look at the front end. The second round. The second round, other than the early part of it, has not been a great round for quarterbacks either. The front end of it. And okay, maybe they believe that Kaiser or Webb is Derek Carr. Okay,
I think you just named the one. I guess that is the best in the last several years.
We've done our evaluation. We see these guys.
Dalton Kaepernick. I'm trying to think of some others that have been top of the second round.
Early on, Drew Brees was technically a second-round pick, although he was the 32nd because it was a year where someone was devoid. So you can play that game if you want.
Sure,
But okay, early. Now you go down the list of the later second rounds with the idea of people going, we got our guy. We've got somebody nobody else sees. So we decided, okay, these guys aren't franchise guys. Like I'm saying, maybe Watson and maybe Mahomes should have been early second round. Would have been better value for it where they belong, because I don't know that they're legitimate first round, can't miss franchise guys. We'll find out, and you make that evaluation. But we think we know something more than anybody else, and we think Kaiser or Webb or whomever. Okay, cool. That's your evaluation, and you have at it. And God bless you. Let's go. Let's see. But yeah, we'll have to see if that one happens.
What did you chuckle inside when you heard Ozzie Newsome took an Alabama kid in the first round?
Are you kidding me? There was no way. There was no way Ozzie was going to let a couple. Even if the kids can't play, I'm not letting an Alabama player fall any further. That Crimson Tide blood runs deep in Ozzie. He wasn't going to let that happen.
I mean,
and they got a pretty good player.
Well, sure they did. They got Marlon Humphrey for their secondary right there. So which team do you think did? Where you looked at all the pieces falling down last night. As much as we beat up
Cleveland, you get 3 picks the first round, you got to feel, okay, we're good. That was a good day.
Right.
And just by the sheer numbers. I think New Orleans helped themselves. I go back to Tennessee.
I like that.
If there's one video, I want to be Mike Mularkey, because I've got my quarterback. I've got Dick LeBeau coordinating my defense. My needs, okay. I've addressed my needs. Hadn't needed to do anything. I got 2 picks in the first round. And what else do I need? I need DBs. You know what happened? A whole pot full of DBs got pushed back into the second and third round. My life's pretty good right now.
And you already got one in Adoree Jackson who you could put out there on offense. He's like the 5-down player. He plays 3 on defense, 1 on special teams, and maybe 1 on offense. And he's dynamic. They didn't have that special teams guy that could maybe swap the field for Marcus Mariota and from them to pound the ball with Derrick Henry, with DeMarco Murray. They chose Corey Davis. They have Delaney Walker. Then offensive line that is gelling. I was coming in today. I'm like, you know what? I got to talk up the Titans because I really like them more than pretty much most last night. And I'm with you.
In a division that is very, very. I mean, life has lined up very well for Tennessee.
Well, I mean, after last night too, we were marked on it during our broadcast last night. I mean, sometimes when you think about dynamic football games, you can't miss watching. With all due respect, the AFC South is kind of last in that department. More often than not. Now you're going to get Luck versus Watson twice a year, Luck versus Mariota twice a year. You're going to get Watson in this division, which is exciting now.
Maybe
and
the
Titans
in Jacksonville.
That's right. Fournette now is coming downhill.
Right.
I mean, and Jacksonville's defense, Jalen Ramsey could be, defensive player of the year down the road from everything that you saw last year, his maturation process. Coughlin now there. If Bortles can somehow get his you-know-what together with the 2 Allens, of course, TJ Yeldon's back there too. Let's not forget. I mean, there are some very talented players. Julius Thomas didn't work out there, but, I really like what's going on over there.
And
I
of
really
course,
do in the
the
AFC
bosses,
South.
our bosses and the bosses at CBS and Fox and all that right now are going, oh, my God, great. Indianapolis versus Tennessee. That's our biggest game.
No, I know, but it's entirely possible that could be exciting television. Right. And ESPN's doing cartwheels because their first Monday night of the season became that much more watchable or must see when Adrian Peterson signed with the Saints, and he's going to start a season in Minnesota. And last night when TJ Watt got drafted by the Steelers, it's Steelers at Texans on Christmas night. It's the Watt family Christmas on the Worldwide Leader.
New Orleans is the other team you got to watch now. They've got that running. They don't want Drew Brees to throw 670 times. So now I loved it though. Hearing Sean Payton come out and go, Anthony or Adrian Peterson's going to be a nice compliment to Mark Ingram.
Than's for coming on the show. I know. I love it. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. I'll see you at the spot later on. That's Brian Billick here on the Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.